If anybody doesn't know, I'll just give you like my brief little bio. I guess I kind of came along with Redcon, what I do, and then hopefully I'm just going to give you guys what I think is a little bit of a valuable framework for working out, your own workouts, training. One thing I say at the end of the day, if anybody ever sees like, is this better, Aaron? Good. You want me to hold my beard? He's doing this motion back there. Hold your beard. So I always say, like, if anybody ever, if anybody does this, I apologize, but if anybody says, like, here's the exercise to get a great butt, or here's your, 6-week booty builder, or here's how to put on, like, 30 pounds in, like, 12 minutes, like, they're full of shit and they're trying to take your money. So speaking to a room of people about working out and trying to give you anything specific is useless. So I'll give you guys some concepts that hopefully can help everyone's training. And then I'll hit, like, a little Q&A after that if you guys want some more specifics. And then I think we're all working out. We're working out, right? Yeah, so when everyone's working around, I'll walk around, and I had some requests to beat some people up, so I'll professionally beat you up or give some tips, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, there's a couple in line for that. So I got my start just being like a meathead like everybody else. I started training when I was 15. Even when I was like 15, I was smarter than the other 15-year-olds, so I was always the one leading the workouts. I was still stupid, but I was less stupid than all the other stupid people around me, which is where I'm still at now. I'm actually stupid, but I'm less stupid than everyone else out there. So by comparison, I'm doing something good. So anyway, I got super obsessed with working out in high school. I worked out 3 times a day because I thought that was a good idea. We had like a weightlifting class, so I would bench press for an hour because you need to bench press for an hour. And then I would train after school, and then I would go and do my job. And then after work, I would go train at another gym. And I didn't actually know that eating was important then, or like eating a lot. So I actually didn't put on any weight. Like I graduated high school the same height at like $150, and I thought I was jacked. Which now I know at like 5'11" is like physically impossible to be jacked at $150. So anyway, I went to college. I went to University of Florida. I got a degree in exercise science, kinesiology. I worked at the gym up there for like my last 2.5 years, and that's when I actually got like exposed to some smart people. Like the curriculum was good, honestly, but I wasted it because I was just like still in the mode of like going to school for completion. Like I'm just a good test taker, but I actually like forgot a whole bunch of shit. So when I got back out and started doing like more specialized stuff that I was paying for, I was like, anatomy. I should have paid attention because I forgot all that. So anyway. One of my first points that I'm going to make that kind of ties in at this point for if you want to take your physique as far as humanly possible, the first thing, in my opinion, starts with needing some degree of emotional intelligence. And what I mean by that is because I thought I was smart, so that's what happens with stupid people a lot. So I was stupid, but I thought I was smart by association with more stupid people. And then when I actually got around some smart people at school, some of the strength coaches up there at University of Florida, I still specifically remember I had this moment when I was like in like with a little like a conference, or a guy was giving like a speech on, he was talking about the components of bench press and basically just an exercise of how like, what are the pros and cons. He didn't say it was bad. He said some considerations depending on your goal, all that kind of stuff. And I just remember sitting there for like this 30-minute speech, like so hot and so pissed off. And I was like, this is blasphemy. Like Arnold bench presses. I was literally like angry. Back is like, how stupid is that? I was like emotional and angry about an exercise. So there's a lot of people in this industry that are extremely emotional. I joke that nutrition and diet is like turned into a religion now, where it's like people have their profiles like on Instagram, and like the first thing they list is like, if it fits your macros, and then they have like about their kids and religion after that. So I'm like, sorry, if it fits your macros, people, it's great. But same thing, like people put up like the first thing in their life that's important is like their diet or their training or whatever. And it's like, if you're emotionally attached to something, you're doing something wrong. Before Redcon was even in existence, and was basically like, hey, I got this new company, and like before he was done, I was like, sweet, I'm coming, because it's like, I like Intra MD, but I don't like it that much. And so then the funny thing too is, and then Aaron was kind of telling me about the company and the idea, and kind of paying me the compliment of thinking that I was underutilized with Prime, and wanted to like kind of get me out a little bit more and help spread whatever it is that I've got. Not an STD, not that. But so at the same time, I was like, I knew that he was telling me about like, well, there's nothing yet. It's basically going to be, the company's starting. We got people running the company. He's like, I'm bringing on this guy Dallas. And so I just remember being like, all right, well, here's the deal. Like I'm negotiating, like I have any leverage. I was like, I want to come on, but I want to train Dallas, or I want to at least, I said, introduce me to Dallas. Like I want the opportunity to train him. I remember Aaron being like, all right, well, we'll see what happens. So anyway, I got to talk to Dallas and somehow convinced him to let me, work with his muscles. And then honestly, we trained for a long period of time after that. But that kind of comes back to, this is where I'm actually going to get somewhere with this. Sorry if anybody's falling asleep. So that's kind of how I came on with Redcon, and honestly, some of those points that I'm telling you guys are what kind of helped me, and will help some people continue to get better. I mean, at the end of the day, I remember when I was talking with Dallas, in retrospect, he was like, I could have been like, who the F is this guy? Like, why would I bother working with him? But he was a little familiar with some of my content and stuff that I put out, and said at the end of the day, like, he can always get better. And then I said from there, it's like relationships are important. Not that I'm important, but I don't share my time with a whole lot of people. I joke that like my life is carved between like my family, then my drive to the gym, and then like every different grocery store that has the products that I want, and then back to my house. And that's pretty much where I put all my time. So I was happy to give my time to Aaron, happy to give my time to Dallas. First and foremost, obviously, I was excited to work with him as an athlete, but I've trained a lot of athletes that are big names that I was like, after one workout, I'm like, well, they're not getting invited back. So anyway, that kind of comes back to, again, Dallas had the emotional maturity to at least, kind of see what do I have going on, what did I have to offer potentially. And so that's the big thing is I think for your own workouts is know first and foremost you can get better with your form, your execution, whatever your plan is, and then you can always work harder. And I'd say like the next big step from there is consistency. Again, I joke that like for my own brand or whatever I do, I have like the worst business model ever because it's like I don't sell anything that's like 6 weeks or 12 weeks or however many weeks is like appealing for people to buy. Because for the most part, not that there's wrong with the plan, and obviously people do contest prep, but like the people that get the best results and ultimately take their physique as far as they can, like they're consistent. So if I'm really trying to change someone's physique, like I can say that I can do it faster than they could on their own, but to sell like a time frame or something is just a load of shit. So whatever you're gonna do, like consistency is the name of the game, and then it's at all different levels. So meaning, if you're just kind of brand new to it, you're just kind of getting in shape. Everyone kind of jumps in the deep end. They're like, I'm gonna train 7 days a week and do 2 days and all that. You'd be way better off doing 3 times a week or even twice a week, as long as you're doing it consistent for the rest of your life. And then with like, from my perspective, with athletes and the people that I work with, like the people at the highest level, it's like everything they do is hard. So, eating a lot, eating clean, training hard, all that's hard. But doing that consistently is like a whole different level of hard. So anybody can diet for a certain period of time. Anybody can train hard. In my opinion, eating the amount of food you need to eat if you're trying to take your physique as far as you can go is probably the hardest thing to do. And again, it's one of those things you really look like everyone's got the days they had a good workout or the week had a good workout or good diet. But to do that week after week, month after month, year after year, consistency is just the name of the game. And that ties in with execution and ties in with effort. So that's kind of my next point. Knowing that you can get better, it steps back to know that, if I have a kind of a niche or whatever is kind of the execution guy or the form guy, at the end of the day, it should all be things that make you train harder, that has the stimulus of obviously making your muscles grow, whatever that challenge is. The benefit of execution is it should also prevent injuries. So the way to get better is through execution and is through effort. And you need the combination of two. It's not one or just the other. Like one of my biggest pet peeves, if I have people that follow me or come up to me like, yeah, I love everything you do because it's not about weight and you just need to have good form. And I was like, I just want to punch you in the face because then I get people that are like curling 5-pound dumbbells and tagging me and be like, yeah, weight's not important. And I'm going to be like, you're going to look the same next year. So I've never, ever said weight is not important. It's one of those things that they're absolutely both. If I had to pick one or the other, I'd say execution is a little bit more important just for the reason that it prevents injuries. I mean, you can work your ass off until like you disassemble, so work ethic is great, but if your execution's bad, your form's bad, people can grow muscle, and we've seen that. We've seen people that can win Olympia titles and grow muscle, and then now are effed. They've got, spinal fusion and joints are disintegrated and stuff like that. So at the end of the day, execution may be a little bit more important. And if there's something that I tend to be a little bit more than most people, it's like everybody knows form is important. Everybody knows execution is important. It just seems like I might be a little bit OCD because my parameters are just a little bit tighter than most people. So you still always get those meatheads that are like, oh, it's just about, heavy progressive overload with the big compound movements and that's it. That same person would make fun of someone for like quarter squatting. And I was like, well, that's form. Like, well, yeah, you can't quarter squat. I'm like, okay, well, your parameters are just different than my parameters. I might have like 10 more points I might add to that than just depth. So you need to have some awareness that your form can get better, 1 for injury prevention, but 2 for making training harder. And then from there is just effort. And I always say I've trained with so many people. From having training buddies through high school, through college, through having trained well over 10,000 hours of clients of people in front of me, in person training them, to training with pros to training pros to training with some of the people that I consider the hardest training people on earth and the strongest people on earth, like everyone's got a next level. Like everybody's got another gear. Like I was the guy that was like riding my bike to the gym for like 30 minutes to go train by myself, and I train hard, I'm hardcore, and you have that perception that you are until you get around people that actually, you know, they have that another gear or that next gear. And the parameters of what you need change. You know, like when you're 17 or 18, it might just be cool to have buddies and you just like beat the shit out of each other in the gym, which is important. But like when you get to the next level, like for me now, if I'm training people, I want people to have the awareness of like, yeah, I need good execution. They're going to kind of hold me in check there, but I also need effort. And you'll tend to find you get people that just do kind of one or the other. So those are my couple key points. You know, just having awareness of those things, applying that obviously to your own goal, and then I always say just like manage your expectations. So if you're going to do something, you're going to do something with your diet, you're going to do something with your workout, you're going to do something with your training, just have a really good understanding of why you're going to do it. My other pet peeve is people tag me all the time and like people that are doing stuff with like bad form, or like they're having arguments with someone about form or whatever, and I guess they want me to just like jump in and like yell at somebody I don't know for like no apparent reason. And so the thing I joke is like, I don't know why they're doing that. Like, so my whole thing is like, my little tag is I'm the hypertrophy coach. So if I'm speaking to something, it's to put muscle on. But like, I'm perfectly fine if people just like to go and like work out in the gym because it's fun, or it's their hobby, or they like picking heavy shit up. Like some people's hobby is like sitting on the couch and getting fat. You know, so if you like to go to the gym and just swing shit around, like, as long as that's why you're going to the gym, I'm going to the gym because I like to swing shit around and grunt and feel manly, then like awesome, have at it. Like if your goal is to put on muscle or to have the best physique that you can have or whatever it is, that's a different thing. So, you know, I've had some people that like, they'll come and like, oh, my deadlift's off or my squat's off and I can't quite get it, this and that. And like the first question inevitably for me is like, well, do you want to get better at squats because you like the sport of squatting, and any exercise to a degree is a sport? Or, you know, do you actually want to have big legs, or do you want to have a big back, or whatever it is? And so that's the kind of thing, because it's going to be a different answer depending on those different things. If you just like squatting, like there's a ton of people that pick the wrong sport. This isn't saying anything negative. People are aware of Lane Norton. Anybody heard of that guy? If you've ever seen him squat, like he just picked the wrong fucking sport. Like that guy should not squat. He just doesn't have good mechanics. He was born with the wrong femurs. So for people that are exercise nerds like me, like he has to have horrible form to squat. And that's why he's had 8 million surgeries on his spine, you know, because he's trying to do something that he really isn't, you know, shouldn't be doing. And I'm not knocking Lane for that. At the end of the day, every sport at a high enough level is bad for your body, every sport. So anyway, that's my rant. Did that help someone maybe? Is everyone awake? Anybody got questions about muscles, beards, socks, pink dumbbells? I'm still stupid. So I joked that I had a client once who was really high up in a big company, and it's still stuck with me. She just said that good is the new great, which is 1,000% true in every form of the industry. So if you want to be successful, you want to be great, is just be adequate, be good. So I don't want to toot my own horn. That sounds bad, but that's like, God, everyone's so shitty at everything now. I don't know if this is a pep talk or good or bad, I don't know. But like, honestly, like people, like I've had so many employees at different points in time, and it's like, you know, people don't show up on time to work. People come and like ask about benefits on their first day, or when their vacation is, or like, when's my break, like when's lunchtime, like just show up and work. Like half the reasons, like when I went to my first job as a trainer, the guy was like, okay, the more you're available to take clients, the more you're in the building, like the more clients you're gonna get. I'm like, okay, I'm not smart, that requires no intelligence, but I literally made my availability from open to close every single day, 7 days a week. And I was sleeping in my car on like my breaks in between clients, and he had to come to me a week later. He's like, you gotta take a couple days off. Like I didn't mean that. Like I've never had anyone actually do that before. And so honestly, I was a shitty trainer to start. I didn't know anything about, like I knew some stuff from college, but knowing how to train with like, you know, me being, you know, 22 years old or 21 years old at that point in time, like what do I know about what's limiting like a 58-year-old woman from, you know, losing weight? It's a lot more than physical stuff at that point in time. So I really sucked when I started. I never hurt anybody, but I really sucked. But I just like showed up a lot, and that's why I joke too. Like even with like, there's so many now self-proclaimed trainers. That's my biggest pet peeve, man. It's like everybody and their moms is a trainer. I'm like, no, you're not. You work at a car dealership and you train 2 hours a week somewhere, and you have online coach written in your whatever. Like I just showed up for more actual education. Like I've probably got like certifications through like 10 different bodies, and it doesn't require you to be smart to actually just prioritize and spend money on things. Like I just showed up, even if I was like dumb sitting in those classes, I'll absorb more by osmosis at that point in time just by doing it. So no, I'm not smart. I still pay people money that I think are smart, like to make me less stupid. And so I honestly just think that's like a continual process. Like as soon as you like think you're the smart person in the room or something, you're just in the wrong room. Yeah. Yeah, so I've had a ton of moments where I helped limit my degree of stupidity. So it's like, I remember when I was at my first job, so when I was training in a big box company, a club that had like 60 different clubs, 60 different gyms, and they're all like 5,000 to 8,000 member gyms. So I was a trainer, and then I was doing all the education that they provided in-house, and then I was a manager, and I was like training other trainers. And I remember trying to like get with different trainers and management and stuff to like learn more. And they're just like, bro, you're out of information. I remember like, okay, so like I had to like stop and like, how am I going to get smarter? So I had to like did a ton of research on like what are actual good certifications, where can I actually learn things, and inevitably there are always things I had to pay a lot of money for. I had to travel for. If you can get a certification online, it's not a good certification. Sorry. That might help you get a job, get your foot in the door somewhere. So those were turning points for me. Like after I went to like my first thing that I paid a lot of money for, I was a trainer. So it's like, as a trainer, it's like a double hit. I'm not training people while I'm gone, so I'm losing money. Like I didn't have like a salary at that point in time. So it's like, then I had to pay for the trip, pay for the certification, pay to stay there, all that shit. And I was like, God, it was like paid me back tenfold. Like after I got back, like as soon as you just like that step up. So I think after that, then I had the turning point of like, I just told myself I was going to do at least travel for at least 2 things every single year, and I've still done that. Every once in a while I've had like once or twice something came to Florida. I'm like, fuck yes. But every other time I've flown everywhere, just for different certifications and all that kind of stuff. And then honestly, one of the biggest exposures was definitely working with Ben, because he's the same way. Like he spends more money he's kind of more like going like the business route now, so he goes to different like entrepreneur things and sales things and all that kind of stuff. But initially, like that's how we got along. We'd done some of the same certifications and same trainers, and he definitely opened my eyes to like the next level of the thing I took away from him most was someone that actually trains hard. I'm still happy saying I've never met anyone that trains as hard as Ben when he was in his prime. Now he's retired, he doesn't give a shit. But training with a 290-pound human being at 5% body fat that can like out endurance most endurance athletes while still using excessive weight is just like next level stuff. And so for my profession, it's like how the hell is like some normal person going to train some 300-pound pro bodybuilder if you have no idea what that's like? I don't have to be that size, but it's like training someone with different proportions, different dimensions, different capacity. Like it's the same as training like for me like an 85-year-old client with spinal fusion or something. It's like, that's a challenging thing. So it's a challenging thing to train a human being like that. So those are big turning points, getting around the right people, and just showing up for that stuff. Are you applying? Man, I honestly, we've had interns at my gym, so when I'm at 40, I'm either like the best or the worst person to have an intern for. So 2 reasons. The first thing is I probably wouldn't have an intern now because I'm too selfish with my time. And I say that as like, it's just, I wouldn't want someone to come and make any promises of what I could get delivered to someone. They'd be like, what the hell? Like, I don't want to go to the grocery store and sit around and play with this guy's kids all the time. Because I was talking with somebody else, like, I'm luckily at a point right now, like my boys are 1.5 and 3.5. And honestly, me spending as much time with them now where they actually want to is more important than anything else I've got going on. So I truly, truly love what I do. I'm like one of those few people that, like, I get excited about it. Like I like turn into a nerd talking about muscles and shit and get giddy, but I still like it less than my boys. So right now I want to spend as much time with them as possible and work as little as possible. That sounds bad, but that's just the reality. And the other part too is I'm really good at teaching people, because I've always trained trainers, but I'm really good at teaching people to train like me, and not everyone's brain works like me. I used to have like this disconnect with trainers where some people loved it and turned into great trainers, and some people just like hated me. And I'm very, very conceptual. So I like to give people concepts and be like, go. So it's like half the people in this room were like, what the hell was that speech about? This guy's retarded. Those are the people that wouldn't be good trainers under me. And someone's like, oh, concept, good, and whatever. And I used to think when I was more of an asshole, that if you weren't conceptual, you were unintelligent or something, which is obviously stupid. And some people need specifics and structure and those types of things, and I'm not the guy for that. So I've had interns work for us, and some of them really liked it, and some of them were like, it just kind of feels like it's all over the place. So right now, no. I'll take your application though. I'll put it in my file. Anybody else? Honestly, man, I love bodybuilding first and foremost. So the good and the bad with it is anybody in here how many people in here compete in some capacity? Anybody? Handful of competitors. So the funny thing is, like, whenever I work with someone now, especially during their first show, it's like a 2-hour life speech before we talk about like competing. And they're like, what is this guy talking about? Because they have no idea what they're getting into. So I just love bodybuilding, and I had no idea everything that went into it. And honestly, I just have such shitty genetics. Like, I thought about doing a show when I was in college. Was the first time I really started to think about it. And I look back and I'm like, thank God I didn't. I would have embarrassed the shit out of myself. Because it's like one of those things when you're like, I don't know, when I was like 19, I had like an ab. I'm like, yeah, I'm like 5% body fat. And I was really probably like 14% body fat and didn't actually have any muscle. So there's a lot of people that think I was the same guy. So I'm not making fun of anyone except myself. So anyway, long story short, I always loved bodybuilding first and foremost. But then like I just kind of got more obsessed with the process of it. And just kind of told myself I didn't think I really would compete. And then I had a client that it's like one of those like lifer clients that I'd been training for like maybe close to 2 years. I think at the time he was 48, 49 years old. I just got him in like crazy shape, just like lifestyle stuff. But he was like, training 5-6 days a week. And he was probably like a legitimate, 220 and like 10% body fat. And like he had always wanted to compete. He's a successful businessman and was just like, I'm going to, and he told me, it was one day, he's like, man, I'm in good enough shape, I want to compete. He's like, but here's the only deal. He's like, you have to compete with me. I was like, God, so this guy was like paying my bills at this point in time too. Imagine you got a client training 5 or 6 days a week. And honestly, I was very good friends, still good friends with him. And so I thought about it for a long time, and I was like, all right, I guess I'll compete. So that's really the first time I competed is I had somebody basically talk me into it. And then honestly, my expectations were fine. At that point in time, I'd known that like, I wouldn't put a limitation still. I don't put a limitation on how far I can take my physique. I still think I can get better, but like, if I'm not that like, hopefully if your parents told you could be anything when you grew up, they're full of shit, right? So it's like, I want to be an Olympic sprinter, like too fucking bad. You got the wrong genetics and the wrong structure. You can't outwork, wide childbearing hips if you want to be an Olympic sprinter. Sorry, I got wide childbearing hips. So bodybuilding is almost in the same boat. For me to have the delusion that I can like be Phil Heath is stupid. So I had the expectation coming in that like I wanted to compete to get a better understanding of the process, and I knew at that point in time it would make me a better coach. And then honestly, I liked so much about it. So at the end of the day, I was like, it's like, for me, I'm such a structured person, and I have to like see that I'm getting better and like doing things better and improving. Otherwise, I like want to kill myself. So when that was like my first baseline of competing. It's like, okay, here's where I'm at, and it's like, now I want to get better at it. So like I played endurance sports and stuff growing up. So even though I think they're horrible for you, like I like endurance sports because it's like beat your times, like that appeals to me. So like that's it for me for competing is like I like repeating the same show until I get the outcome that I want, until I can see that things are getting better and better and better. And then ultimately, like, sorry if this is anybody in the room, but like if you haven't competed, you have no business training competitors because that's why there's a 2-hour life speech that goes along with it. Is like, it's so, it's not even like running a marathon's brutal, but it's not even like running a marathon because it's like, it's a marathon for like 12 or 16 weeks, right? So people have no idea how it's going to affect, your life and all the things you're going through and the emotional things. I'm not even a very emotional person, and there's all the things that go along with it. So yeah, that was my thing from there. So personally, like I like it just as like my, I'm beating my marathon time. So it's my benchmark of am I improving at this point? And then two, it's just for me, I feel like it's obviously for my profession, makes me a better coach. So. Yeah. Say what? Yeah, I've got a how-to on my first show. I put on 30 pounds, I think, in like 6 days. Yeah, yeah. Don't do that. Advice 101. Yeah. Yeah. So honestly, little stuff. I mean, so some of it's not. Everyone likes to make names for things so they sound smart and cool. So there's the whole reverse dieting thing, which is an intelligent concept. It's like just actually structure your process going backwards. So whether you need to, join the, reverse dieting religion or whatnot, I don't think is necessary. But first and foremost, I get the best advice I got from, because I didn't know Ben when I did my first show, and I knew him when I did my second show. He's like, just don't buy anything and have it in your house. I was like, well, he's like, don't buy anything. He's like, if you want something after your show, just go out and go get it and go eat it. But like I had for my first show, before the show, I had gone to Whole Foods and spent like $300 on nothing healthy, literally $300 on shit, and my whole house was full of it. So like when I got home, it was like my mission to eat it all as fast as possible, which I did. And so literally I put on 30 pounds, and I think my blood pressure was like probably like 250 over like 200. Say what? No, I was I was holding water everywhere. I remember walking up my friend's like a flight of stairs at my buddy's house a week later and being like, and I was like, my wife was just basically every night I would eat myself until my stomach hurt, and she'd be like, you're an idiot. I'm like, I know, but I can't stop. And that's literally what it was like. So I rode an insulin spike for like a week straight. That's what happens. No sugar for 12 weeks, and then the first bit of sugar, and it was like game over, and it was like everything in sight. So the easiest advice to say is have nothing bad in your house. If you want something, go get it. And then just follow a plan. Like even if it's like, you don't have to eat like a robot post-show, so I don't think there's one set way that you have to do it, but like still have some sort of plan. Like even if you're having 2 cheat meals a day post-show, like write that down, so it's not like, one day it's like, I'm gonna have something bad, and then it's not really a cheat meal. It's just like all day you just keep having cookies in your pocket, and shit just never actually stops. So that was always it for me, is like just having just write something down. It doesn't have to be anything brilliant or miraculous, and then just adhere to that the best that you can. So if I always do the week after a show, I just have 1 meal a day. I eat whatever the hell I want, and then just work backwards from there. Yeah. Yeah, take the cookies out of your pocket. They're in there. Anybody else? Before I hand it over to someone? The best for training is RTS, which stands for Resistance Training Specialist, by far the best. And the best for nutrition as relates to competitors, I think now it's called Bioprint, and that's a certification by Charles Poliquin. Charles Poliquin is definitively the best strength coach in the world, and although it's like kind of like got like a voodoo name, he's probably the tip of the spear for functional medicine as relates to athletes. So those are probably those are the 2 certifications that I took, and it's like life was changed afterwards. But again, like RTS is good and bad because it's very conceptual. So people want to take a certification and be like, okay, I'm going to learn what are the exercises, what are the steps, what are the reps, what are the blah, 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 which has nothing to do with like a person walking in the front door being your client that day and actually figuring out what that person has going on and what you can appropriately do with that. And that's what RTS does. It gives you the framework of how to what does somebody actually walk in the door with, what do they present, what can they tolerate, what can they own, and actually making it individual specific. So it's amazing, but it's hard. It requires a lot of thinking. It requires going somewhere for multiple weekends of it's all hands-on and stuff. And then the same thing, the Poliquin. So if anybody doesn't know Charles Poliquin, my speech is about Charles Poliquin now, but he's probably got I don't remember what the stats are, but he's got Olympic medaling athletes in 28 different sports. He works with every pro athlete, whatever. He's a strength coach. And so if anyone knows anything about any coach, you've had any coach at any point in time, or a strength coach, and someone that's been in the industry for 40 years, he's an asshole, but an awesome coach asshole. And so the whole course is there's some structure, but it's just him just telling cool coach asshole stories for 8 hours a day. Which again, if you're conceptual like me, I'm like, yeah, it's fucking great. And you got to kind of pick and choose the stuff from there. So those are probably the 2 overall best, but both of them you have to pay for. They're not cheap, and you got to go to them. But totally worth it. Someone told me before I went to the Poliquin one, I've taken that one 3 times. Before I went to the first one, someone's like, you'll get your money's worth in the first 10 minutes. I'm literally sitting there and taking notes, and I was like, fuck, it's true. First 10 minutes, I got all these golden nuggets. And that's what the whole thing is. There's so much if you work with someone that's produced that level of results for that many decades, for example, if you want to pay him to coach you, I think he's so if you want to train with you or a consultation, I think he's $1,800 an hour. So I'm glad I'm taking the certification. I was I don't have anyone I'm willing to pay that much money for an hour, not because he doesn't have valuable answers. I don't have that valuable of questions. But anyway, so you got somebody with that level of knowledge and proven results. the course is unbelievable. So, anybody else? How long do we have? So muscles, how do you get them? Go. All right. I don't know, man. Nobody ever wants the. Wait, I'm gonna say supplements aren't that important. Just kidding. Now everybody wants like the sexy answers, and unfortunately, a lot of the answers are non-sexy. So people will like, I'll give the first most important answer in recovery, and you're gonna go, yeah, fuck that. Like, tell me the secret supplement for recovery. And so the most important thing is sleep. And everyone's like, I know how much sleep I need. Okay, yeah, you know how much sleep you need. Now tell me the next thing. I'm like, no, sleep. So there's like a list of 10 things. Sleep, for a million reasons, is the most important. There's like certain processes that can only occur at sleep that occur at no other time in the body. Like, that's the only way they've proven now that your brain recovers. So your brain doesn't have a lymphatic system, so it doesn't work like muscles and things like that. So why is your brain important? Well, your central nervous system tells your body everything that it does from the stem of recovery standpoint. So it's really new. I think there's a TED talk on that. So listen to somebody smarter than me talk about like sleep, and there's something that I can't remember the name of it, but there's within the last 2 years they've discovered how your brain actually recovers without having a lymphatic system. It only happens with sleep, and then you can relate it to hormones and all sorts of things from that point. So literally, like, from someone on the inside of the industry that knows about everything involved with recovery, I mean, I'll see people, like athletes, that if they actually start getting adequate sleep for like weeks straight, can like put on like 10, 15 plus pounds while getting leaner. Like, those are like the secret. Like anytime I go on vacation, like, I instantly get fucking jacked. Like, as soon as I'm like getting 8 or 9 hours of sleep, I'm not doing anything during the day, and like I'm just relaxing, like instantly bigger, fuller, leaner, like overnight. So that's the least sexy answer, and everyone's gonna be like, yeah, I fucking heard that since I was like 4 years old, like 8 hours of sleep. So I can't make it, hammer that one home anymore. And then from there, most people were worried too much about recovery. Like, someone said the word overtraining. I know everyone's like fucking scared of it, like it's gonna sleep into their house in the middle of the night and like steal everything. Like, fuck overtraining. Like, I think, oh my God, something hurts. I think I overtrained. And I was like, I've never really actually seen too many people overtrain. Like, it's like maybe 1 out of 1,000 people overtrain. So it's like most people just have recovery like idiots. So if you're sleeping 4 hours a night, you're not eating any quality food, then you're just under recovery and you're not overtrained. So sleep first. I was talking with Aaron, hopefully cool. Like, I think everyone's central nervous systems are jacked up. So again, everybody wants to just take like, what do I need to do to train harder and train better? And I can tell you about things that help calm your adrenals and help calm your central nervous system. But everyone would rather just take like 12 scoops of Total War and be like, fuck that, I'm just going to take more Total War. So it's like, there's like good functional medicine people here talk about like yin and yang, where it's like, you can crank the yang as much as you want, you can take as many stims as you want, but you burn the candle on both ends, eventually you just don't recover. So things that calm your nervous system, things that promote actually calming down after your workouts, calming down at the end of the night, promoting getting into a good sleep pattern. So again, it's like the least sexy stuff ever. I tell people, like, people that actually are really concerned about the recovery, like if an athlete, it's their job, then it's like you have to get 8 or 9 hours of sleep to start first. I usually make them have a time where they don't look at a screen. So it's like, if you're going to go to bed at 10, don't look at a screen after 8. Which is like, people are like, oh, I'm not paying this guy. Fuck that. This guy's got the worst advice ever. And they'll go to the other coach that has a super secret supplement advice. That's what I really want. Tell me to take twice as much. So those are big ones. As soon as you're done with your workout, you should be focused on getting calm after that point. So calming supplements are big. That's why I'm a big fan of, like, for lack of a better term, again, carb backloading. Somebody made up that name to sound cool. So like, I'm a big fan of doing things that are, stimulate your adrenals before you train. So higher fats, higher proteins, more of your carbs post-training, last meal of the day. Those are some sneaky little ones for recovery. Magnesium is worth its weight in gold. It's probably one of the cheapest, most... if you actually get, this is getting pretty specific, write this down. If you actually get, your magnesium levels tested, so people say how much magnesium you need, but if you get the right magnesium test, which is like a red blood cell level test of magnesium, most people are severely deficient. If you think magnesium is important, type in PubMed. So if everybody knows what PubMed is, it's like a free research which shows resource, which has every single published study ever done, ever. For free. So if it's like someone you're like trying to think, is this supplement good? Like, type in creatine to PubMed. It's like every university study on it ever. So you can say, like, someone says this supplement's good, and there's like one study on it. It's like, maybe not. If you type in like magnesium, there's like tens of thousands of studies relating it to hormone levels, to recovery, central nervous system, things like that. So those are some key points of what could be like a week-long seminar. What you got? So you could say like, so there's research indicating. So I'm trying to remember where this is from. I'm not going to remember where. There's research that shows they correlate the people with the lowest incidence of cancer are correlated with the highest amounts of magnesium intake in their diet, and it's somewhere where it has to do more soil quality than actual supplementing with it. And they've said it's those people average 4 to 5 grams a day of magnesium, which is a shit ton of magnesium. So to say how much anyone needs to get your blood work done, so that's what people say, like, you need this much D3, you need this much whatever. Like, there's arbitrary amounts that might be a decent place to start, but if you don't get blood work, it's just guessing. So there could, someone that lives in that, wherever that was done, I honestly want to say that was somewhere in Africa, to be honest. I don't remember which country. But if that person lived there, they need 0 grams of magnesium supplemented a day. You could argue over here you might need 4 to 5 grams of magnesium a day, which no one takes. I think so if I give advice for someone, it's always, with the asterisks of liability attached to it. So I would say, hey, if it were me, I would take at least 2 grams a day in some form. There's a lot of different forms of magnesium, but get your blood work done. So at the end of the day, I mean, essential amino acids are essential amino acids. So it's like, if it's actually the essential amino acid, that's what you need, however amount of that is. So obviously there's a lot of, some people saw it because it's published on social media now, and getting around the study about, what do branched chains actually do for protein synthesis, which in and of themselves is very little. You need, for protein synthesis, you need all the essential amino acids. Where branched chains come in handy is there's research that with more of those on top of essential amino acids, there may be additional benefit, and you can maybe even extrapolate for trained people even more benefit past the average person. So did that answer your question, or more on that? Yes. Yeah, so if everybody, so I don't know who was saying, everyone comes out with this research and everyone like freaks out, like, yeah, branched chains are bad, I knew it all along. It's like, shut up, you didn't know it all along. You're only posting it now because somebody posted that study which just says branched chains in and of themselves don't produce protein synthesis, which I don't think anyone ever said. So if the question helps specifically with branched chains are great for energy. So it's actually proven that the more stressed your body is under, whether it's from life stress, from dietary stress, from a caloric deficit, the higher percentage you actually use of branched chains as energy when training. And it's not a huge percentage. I think it maybe goes to like 5 or 8% or something like that. If you look at your total ATP production, whether it's from creatine to glucose, glycogen, all that kind of stuff, and fat. But if you're a highly trained athlete, you're in contest prep, you're not the average. So it's like, should someone trying to lose 50 pounds that's sedentary buy branched chain amino acids? Probably not step one. But the better shape that you're in, the harder you're training, they make more sense intra-training, and they make sense in addition to essential amino acids and maybe in between meals. So if essential amino acids are present, so people use them in between meals, so that makes sense, because essential amino acids, if you had a whole meal, like a whole protein, you have essential amino acids in your blood. Additional branched chains in between could help basically stimulate protein synthesis at that point. And then the same thing post-training. There's a lot of research on specifically leucine, which is the big branched chain, having larger amounts having benefit post-training. So have your whole meal, have your whey protein, have your essential amino acids, whatever, and then maybe have more branched chains or more leucine on top of that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay, 1 or 2 more questions, so make them good. That one's not good. I'm just kidding. That one doesn't count. That's not getting the cut. Anything you put in your mouth, that's not true. Anything you put in your mouth you're going to eat could produce an insulin spike. So people will say, well, even branched chains and amino acids can produce an insulin spike, which is like there's an insulin spike and there's an insulin spike. So if your concern is like, Yeah, everyone goes both ways. So I'm sure you guys have seen, if you read anything out there, some people act like insulin spike is like instantly equating to you're going to be fat if not at the right time, like insulin's the devil. And then you have some people that are so OCD with it, like they have their background where like research isn't clear that insulin's bad for you in any capacity. So it's probably the truth lies somewhere in the middle. So the amount of insulin spike you can get from protein is very minimal. You get much more of an insulin spike from whey protein than you would just essential amino acids or branched chains. But as far as producing excess insulin that could lead to negative effects, storing fat or inflammation or things like that, probably nothing to worry about for like in between meals. Two more questions. What's that? Fasted? For fat loss, no. So people will say, do I do fat loss? Do I do it fed? I think so. Most research now, the best answer I give you is do whatever you prefer doing, because to a certain extent it all works out the same. So they'll show that if you're comparing the same types of cardio, so if you're comparing 30 minutes of cardio on a stepper, do I do it fasted or do I do it fed? It all works out exactly the same. So I always tell people, like, some people will say, well, fasted, you burn more fat when you're doing it, maybe, but then you're just going to replenish that as soon as you eat whatever you're going to eat. So if diet's the same, the type of cardio is the same, it doesn't matter at all when you do it for a long-term effect. Because some people will say, well, fasted cardio, you're going to eat muscle or whatever as well too, which isn't necessarily true either. So what's that? Yeah, and that can help. And honestly, that's true. So that's a place where, like, fasted cardio, if you're going to do it, obviously could prevent, some degree of, actually obviously using amino acids that are in your muscle for energy. So I think the bigger thing would be, when would you do HIIT versus steady state? And if you're well fed, HIIT superior to steady state. Yeah, but HIIT is only beneficial when you have glycogen. So if you're like a highly depleted athlete, this is where, in my opinion, both work well. So if I have a competitor, if they're doing cardio earlier in their prep when they're fed, more HIIT. They get maybe in a transition where they have refeed days and things like that, they're going to probably have a combination of both. And when they're in their most depleted state, I would probably not have any HIIT. That's when it's going to be that's when you'll eat some muscle probably.